You were never a real Christian. That's one of the most common comments on my YouTube video of why I'm no longer a Christian, and I want to talk about that today because I believe that it is the ultimate Christian gaslight. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you guys so much for 600 plus subscribers. That's like insane to me, blows my mind, because I do these videos for fun, and I know that they're not like top quality videos, and I don't have the best camera lighting, content, all of this, and so I just appreciate 600 subs like so much. That means so much to me. Thank you guys for hanging around, commenting on videos, liking my videos, and all of that. And I also want to plug again my Twitch channel and my Discord, which will be on the screen right now. I am going to start streaming at some point. I'm still working on the details of that and getting that all figured out, how to set that up, and what are the best times that work for me to try to do it maybe consistently or whatever. Yeah, so let's jump into today's video. So basically what this video is going to be is just going to be me talking about my life story. So if you're interested in that, hang around. Or if you hold on to that theology of once you're a Christian, you're always a Christian, then I challenge you to stick around and listen to this and try to tell me that I was not a Christian, because I don't know how I could have went through the things that I went through and experienced the things that I experienced, and you can just gaslight that all away and say, well, actually your experiences weren't real, they weren't true, you didn't actually have a relationship with Jesus, you didn't blah blah blah, and that's another common variant of this. You were never really a Christian. People will say, well, you were just following the religion of Christianity. You didn't actually have a real relationship with Jesus. And trust me, I've seen the spoken word, why I hate religion, but love Jesus, so many times. I know the difference, okay? I definitely had a relationship with Jesus as much as that is actually truly possible. So yeah, I'm just going to jump right into my life story, where this all began, the things I went through, the things I experienced, things I felt God was calling me to do, and blah, 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 all this stuff, right? So I did not grow up in a Christian home. I did grow up in a home that believed in God. If you would have asked my mom, yeah, she would say I believe in God, and she read me Bible stories whenever I was really little, but we never went to church or anything like that, so I didn't really know anything about Jesus. I remember in middle school, maybe like 6th or 7th grade, my grandparents started going to church again. They were trying to get me and my mom to go, and I remember telling them like, I'm a good kid, like I'm fine, I'll go to heaven, right? So I had no knowledge of what salvation meant or what it was like to be a part of Christianity or anything like that. I was my basic knowledge in 6th or 7th grade was like, yeah, God's real, Jesus is real, and I'm a good person, so I'm going to heaven, whatever. Well, then, at the end of my 8th grade year, me and my mom got invited to church for Friend Day at the church in our little town. And there was probably about 200 people that went there every Sunday, which is really big for the town. The town I grew up in was like 900 people, so very small town, 200 people go to this church. Got invited. And for whatever reason, me and my mom just kept going every Sunday after we got invited on that Sunday. And that summer, before my freshman year of high school, a good friend of mine invited me to a camp called CIY, which is a Christ in Youth Convention, which is this week-long thing at college campuses where you go and it is just filled with Jesus every single day, right? You wake up, you eat breakfast, and then you go to their big auditorium stage, and there's speakers that come out and talk to you about all these different things about Jesus and how to live better, how to get saved, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then there was this really awesome band that we followed around everywhere called Aaron Pelsu Band, who I still very much love today. Shout out Aaron Pelsu. You are a rad dude. And so yeah, every day, twice a day, it was listening to speakers, listening to music, just all about Jesus. And then we'd afterwards meet up in small groups and have conversations like that. And so it was just a week of very powerful emotional experiences, and it was that week that I ended up feeling called to get baptized. And so I told my pastor that, and then came back, and my youth minister, I think, ended up baptizing me. And my church believed in baptism by full immersion in order to be saved. And that's another thing about my church. It was very a literal church, as in took the Bible very literally. I would say kind of had some Baptist leaning, 6,000 year earth, that type of literal. Okay. So I got baptized and then went into my freshman year of high school, and I was like the story in the Gospels where I was a seed that didn't have any roots, and I got trampled on and my roots weren't deep enough. That's what happened to me in my freshman year of high school. I just kept doing the things that I had been doing before, right? I started smoking weed, and I was doing things with girls that in the church was considered bad and sinful, all this stuff, typical teenager stuff, And towards the end of my freshman year, I started feeling like God was, nudging me, calling me, and then there was just one random day in particular. I don't remember the day at all. But I felt like God was saying to me, Chase, what are you doing? This is not the way that I want you to be living. I have a greater plan for you. And so it was that day that I stopped doing the things that I was doing, and I started praying more, and I started reading my Bible, and I just got much more committed at that point in my life. And then so this was the summer before my sophomore year of high school now, and ended up taking a mission trip to Guatemala, which was very powerful for me spiritually, getting to meet new cultures and like helping people. We didn't even speak the same language, but we had this beautiful emotional connection. And I just played sports with a lot of the kids over there, and they were way better at soccer than me because I've never played soccer before, and had a lot of amazing experiences there. And then that same summer went to CIY, and then at the end of that week I felt called to preach a sermon. And I still remember getting my pastor, right, and I was like, hey, I feel called to preach a sermon. And he's like, all right, cool, we can totally do that. When we get back, we can figure out a day or a Sunday for you to lead church and you can preach the sermon. And I was like, well, what about the Sunday we get back? That work? So I, in a couple days, prepare my sermon, and I preach my first sermon in front of 200 people, which was just crazy thinking about it now. And I don't remember how well I did. It probably sucked. But that was my first experience being called to like a leadership thing and preaching. But I didn't feel called to go into ministry or anything like that. So now this is my role, this is my life, this is my identity, this is who I am. I'm a Christian, and I was very involved, going to church every Sunday and going to youth group every Sunday, and started going to this thing called Guys Night that my youth minister started. And I was kind of a leader in these positions. I would try to facilitate conversation, try to get more people to come. I was always trying to ask questions or share my insights. And I'm the type of person who just loves studying, so I was always reading my Bible, looking up, how to interpret this, what is this, how does this make sense, blah, 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 different kinds of theology, all of that. I was praying every day and all that stuff, doing typical Christian things, right? And then the summer before my junior year of high school, same thing of, went to CIY, felt called to preach, came back, preached my second sermon, and then I believe that was the same summer that I started volunteering at a kids camp, and this was for 5th and 6th graders, or I went to a couple of 7th and 8th grade weeks too, and I just went and I was a leader there. You know, I taught a couple classes and then hung out with the kids, you know, sang songs with them, yelled at them if I needed to, talked really deep personal things when I needed to, and yeah, that was a really powerful time for me spiritually. I felt like there was a lot of growth in that, a lot of you know, dealing with really deep things that kids were going through, and trying to pray for them and help them and show them love, but I still didn't feel called to ministry at this point, and this was, you know, going into my junior year of high school. And so junior year, it was pretty much the summers that, you know, big things happened. Throughout the school year, it was just going to churches on Sunday and youth group and trying to get people to come to church, right? Then summer before senior year was same thing as junior year, right? Volunteering kid camp, volunteering at CIY. And again, feeling called to preach. It's a yearly routine now. Preached my third sermon in front of 300 people. And then my senior year is where things really started to take off, in the sense of me moving towards my call to ministry. Our youth minister ended up leaving our church. He got married, moved to a different town. And so that kind of left a hole in our youth group. And me and a group of friends ended up getting together, and we were like, hey, we want to start this thing where we can try to get people away from going to parties, and they can come and hang out, learn about Jesus, have a good time, blah, blah, all this stuff. And so that's what we did. And the summer before my senior year, we all got together, and I led a Bible study through the book of James, just talking about, hey, how can we prepare for this spiritually? How can we be prepared, you know, to love everyone, even the people that you're not friends with, or the people at school that you think are kind of weird or whatever? How can we get people here? You know, how can we do this in the way that Jesus would want us to do it? And finally, we came up with this idea called Friday Night Unite. And so we're going to have it on Friday nights, like 6 or 7 o'clock. We're going to just invite people. We're going to tell them, like, hey, you want to come for food and games and all this stuff. And then we talk about Jesus, and then split up into small groups, and, you know. So we ended up having a ton of people come, which was really cool. And every Friday I was kind of the leader. I organized food getting there. I cleaned up after everything was over. I taught, or at least got the video lessons going, and all of that. And we ended up keeping track of all the people that would come. We'd have them sign in whenever they came, just so we knew how many people were coming, and what people were coming, and who was there, who wasn't there. And from a high school of 200 people, we had probably close to 150 total come through, like unique visitors, but we probably averaged around 40 people every Friday, which was bigger than what our youth group was. And so here I am, you know, senior in high school, basically being the youth pastor at my church, and then teaching my peers, which is just kind of a weird situation to be in. And so that went on for all of my senior year. And then the summer before college, this is where I volunteered at the kids camp once again. And it was this time at the end of the week, or maybe in the middle of the week, I don't remember, but I just felt this really powerful call to ministry. And I felt like God was saying, Chase, you got to go into ministry. This is something you have to do full time. And I was planning on going into business at the time. I was doing an internship at a financial planning firm, and my major at school was business and finance. And then, after that week, I ended up calling my school, and I was like, hey, I'm switching my major to pastoral ministry. And all's history from there. I ended up quitting the financial planning firm and committing full-time to wanting to go into ministry. Went to CIY again that year, preached another sermon, I believe. And then I went to school, started studying ministry, started studying pastoral ministry, and I realized that there were kind of two different routes that you could go down. There was the pastoral side and the theology side. And the pastoral side was very focused on how to run a church, how to deal with people, how to take care of people, how to prepare for sermons, how to grow your church, like all that personal stuff. And then there was the theology side, which was very educational. What do scholars have to say about the interpretation of the text, and what do these different theologians think about this topic, and how do we interpret this book? And I found myself very much interested in the theology side over the pastoral side, which ended up making me, think about becoming a professor of theology, because in my mind it was like, well, I'm still teaching, I'm just teaching in a different way, and this is sort of my this is my ministry, right? Teaching people theology. And I figured I could still do some pastoral things on the side, right? Like whenever I was in college, I joined this preaching ambassador program, which was, they would send us all around like 4 different states to stay with different preachers, and we'd preach at their church. And so, I figured I could just do some layman things. But as my video talked about of why I'm no longer a Christian, studying the theological side raised so many questions and so many doubts. And I studied everything from ancient Jewish theology all the way up to postmodern philosophy, everything in between, all the major teachers, everyone from the Enlightenment to the Dark Ages to early Christianity, right? I studied the whole thing, all these people's different versions and interpretations of God and the Bible, and how they integrate science into that, and blah, blah, blah. And it all just fell apart for me. But I want to say that the point of this whole video is to point out my experiences that I had, because I think that this is the ultimate Christian gaslight, because it's trying to devalue the experiences that I had, which is what gaslighting is, right? So I had all of these experiences of being called by God to straighten out my life, and having a relationship instead of religion was something that I talked about a lot whenever I was a Christian. And I had these experiences of being called to preach. I had these experiences of being called to be a leader in my church whenever I took over the youth minister role. I had these experiences of being called to become a pastor and go into ministry full-time. I had these experiences of being called to become a professor, and all of these were very real experiences. And so I say all of this to say that if I was not a real Christian, then nobody was a real Christian, because I experienced all of it. So if you somehow still think that I wasn't a Christian, I would love for you to leave your thoughts in the comments down below, because I would love to see the theology that you're working with. I personally was in traditions where people could lose their faith and come back, sort of the Wesleyan tradition. But I know that a lot of Baptists believe that once saved, always saved. So yeah, I would like to see how you justify that theology in light of all of my life experiences and the things that I had. Like, was my life really just an illusion? I think that that's really arrogant to say. And so, yeah, I'm going to close the video with that. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.